One, two, three, four. When I get the chance, I got time on my hands. I'm gonna do what I can to make it known, making it known. Welcome, YouTubers. It's Anthony Scott with another episode of Making It North, a web series about people who make and create things in Maine, the things they make, how they make it, and why, the joy it gives them, and the joy that they bring to others. And today, my guests, that's right, plural, guests are Molly and Jason Priest. Molly and Jason are the band director, choral director, orchestra director, musical educators for MSAD1, our local school district here, and each of them are quite accomplished musicians in their own right, and yet, as their shared last name implies, they are also a musical, creative power couple. Welcome, Molly. Welcome, Jason, to the show.
Hey.
Hi. I just want to say that you have a fan in my house. My daughter absolutely loves you guys. She sings both of your praises all the time, and you're really having an impact on her. She in high school she has discovered her love for music and for theater, and so she's really excited that you guys are here. You're really having an impact on the local community. Tell me something about the work that you do here in Presque Isle. You want to go first?
Well, you started here first, so why don't you go first?
I'm the band director at the high school in Presque Isle, and with that, I teach some other classes too. We do a keyboard and guitar class, and then I did a history of rock and roll class last year, and then this year I kind of shifted it over into like a band class like a beginning band class for high schoolers. Then on top of that, I do the game band. The band plays at all the basketball games and hockey games, and the jazz band at the high school. And then in addition to that, I do the 5th grade beginning band at Zippel Elementary School.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I started this past year, and I'm like the vocal music teacher in the district. It literally says vocal music teacher. Yeah. So I do the chorus at the high school, and with that comes the jazz choir. I've made it kind of a thing to be in the musical too, to help with that. And then I also teach pre-K through 3 general music, which does focus on vocal a lot. So those are my roles.
Okay. You said it focuses on or vocals a lot. And what I can remember from when I was that size, that we did a lot of singing. I remember we sang La Cucaracha over and over again. It was our favorite song, right? But we also got to toy around with some different types of handheld percussion instruments and things like that. Got a sense of how music basically worked, you know. So you said, Molly, that you came after Jason. How much of a lag time? I didn't realize you guys came separately. So tell me about how you guys both came to Presque Isle and where you came from and music in your life before Presque Isle. Yes, God created the heaven and the earth. No, just kidding. Anyway, just go back as far as you want and talk about how you came to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jason and I met at the University of Maine. We were both music education performance double majors there. But Jason's 2 years older than me, so we were kind of staggered in our education.
Yeah.
But we met because Jason joined the University of Maine Singers one of his last years when I was a junior, I think.
Yeah, and University Singers is their top choir ensemble
at the University of Maine.
University.
Yeah. And so he joined. I was secretary, so I knew who everybody was in the group, and I was like, who is this guy? He hasn't been in a group at all. A vocal group. Who this instrumentalist is joining a vocal group? Who is he? So we met through that, and then after he got done at UMaine, he went and got his master's at Butler University in Indiana. Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak on that?
No, I mean, I went to UMaine for my undergrad, and then my master's degree, I wanted to try kind of my hand somewhere else, just outside of Maine.
He plays euphonium. That's his main instrument, which euphonium is like a small tuba.
Yeah, for people who don't know, it's also it's also called like a baritone horn. People call it that as well. I went out to Indiana because one of the teachers there, he played in one of the top bands in the world on euphonium, and so I went and studied with him for my master's, and then Molly was still finishing up her undergrad, and so she came out to Indiana my last year of my master's, and then she started auditioning for schools for her master's, and then
So I just finished my master's last year, and he moved out here. We did a lot of long distance over this relationship.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
About 5 years, mostly long distance. So I moved out there with him, and then he moved with me for a year when I was getting my master's, and then he came over here back to Maine, and he got the job in Presque Isle.
Yeah, mostly what happened was our plan has always kind of been to come back to Maine and or just the East Coast in general, and preferably Maine. And so after her first year of her master's, I was looking for some teaching jobs. Because at the time, I was certified to teach in Maine, but you had to do a whole certification process for Illinois. And I didn't go through with the process because it just didn't seem worth it for like a year. And so I was like, well, and I had heard about at the time, like a bunch of jobs had opened up in Maine, and Presque Isle was one of them. And so I was kind of like, well, I think maybe now's the time to kind of come back to Maine, and because who knows what the job market will look like the next year. And Presque Isle had a reputation of having a great music program, and so I was very interested in it, and so that was kind of what we did. I moved back to Maine that year while she finished up, and then we were fortunate enough that the next year the vocal job opened up, and so it was like a perfect kind of it was just a perfect situation. So
that is pretty fortuitous. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what parts of Maine are you both originally from?
I'm from Cutler, Maine, so I'm from the coast near Eastport and Lubec. And then
I'm from Old Town.
Okay. All right. Well, Maine, it's one of the bigger states in the, along the East Coast, I suppose, but it's really not a big state. And yet, you know the old adage about there being two Maines, and some say 3 and 4, and God, I forget how many they can multiply into. Do you find a great contrast between life up here and life downstate?
Well, for me, it's different because Washington County is in a lot of ways like Aroostook County. Everyone's pretty spread out. Your neighbors are always very kind to you. That you have to drive miles to get somewhere sometimes. I mean, the feel for me feels a lot like where I originally grew up.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, being in Aroostook County, or when I was in Old Town, everything's just so close by. Everything is not very far. And then being in Aroostook County, everything's kind of further spread apart. But to be honest, Presque Isle reminds me a lot of Old Town in a lot of ways. Just the way that the town is. It's very close knit community, and when I had never been to Presque Isle really. I only just visiting.
Only on
briefly.
tours, like for our band in chorus in college, we would come up here, but that's basically it. I didn't.
Yeah, and so when I came up like for the job interview, I remember just kind of driving around town and it just reminded me a lot of Old Town, and so I liked a lot about it, and so it hasn't felt too different. Yeah.
We even have a river running through the middle of it. right?
Right.
A rooster with a penobscot, but yeah.
Right.
I always like when we're driving downstate. It's really good to see that old town exit because that means we're about to come back into some civilization again. You know?
Right.
The mall is there.
Yeah.
The drive is almost over. The older I get, it's the drive being over rather than the mall that's attracting me.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us about the work that you normally do with the kids and how that has been impacted this year by COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, for most music educators, the month of March is like the busiest time of the year.
Yeah.
So we had our concert together in December, and the next concert for the chorus was in March. Jazz band competitions, jazz choir competitions, all that was in March.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was all acoustic chorus and band did happen, which was great. We had that
Right.
happen
Yep.
Earlier, but we were going into March. I was like, oh my gosh, I love March, but I can't wait till March is over. And that was the thought I had at the time. And I just feel so guilty. I even thought that now because now everything is canceled,
Right.
and it's so unfortunate because we both had such great, groups we're bringing to competitions and stuff. And
Yeah. I mean, in really the spring semester for any music program at any school is kind of the busiest time of the year. With the same things like March is all the jazz festivals, and then what we had too planned was the university groups were doing their tours. The university singers and the UMaine Symphonic Band, they were doing a tour. And luckily, it never really happens like this. But this year, both groups were coming to Aroostook County for their tour, and so we had concerts for that planned. One was in March, and then the other one was the first week of April. And that was going to be a great. We were kind of excited for it because like our groups were going to play on the concert with them, and so it was kind of a great kind of way for us to kind of show the kids off to kind of our colleagues at UMaine, like people that we know really well at UMaine, and it was a great way for the kids to see a college group. So it was a little disappointing that got canceled. And then we had our Pops Night concert, and
then and there's other things that were going to happen the rest of the year that probably are not going to be happening now.
Right.
But March was the big month, though. But we're hoping that they'll come back next year so we can do that.
We all of our concerts and stuff for the summer have already been canceling and things on us.
Right.
And for us, for Star City Syndicate, that the band is like, I don't know, it's like life, right? I mean, it's just it's just it gives us so much joy to not just go without having concerts, but not even be able to get together to practice. Because one of the reasons that the band has done so well is because we just all like each other. We get along so well, we just have fun. And so we're really going through some withdrawals ourselves. So hopefully maybe you can help us. What are you doing instead?
Oh gosh. Well, instead of our kids performing?
But I guess there's a lot of parts of that question. In other words, yourselves, how is your creativity helping you cope right now personally? But also, what are you doing to try to somehow give some sort of musical education to kids who can't actually be in the same room with you?
Right. So for me, also I teach at KMH, and of course voice lessons there are also all right.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, I'm struggling with, whether or not I start trying to do virtual lessons, though I know it's going to be really difficult because of the lag time and all that stuff. So there's that piece. But for my own kids, I'm having them send me in recordings and stuff, themselves singing, so I can kind of hear them. And, it's been like an assignment to send a recording in. For the next phase of this learning, I'm going to have some start learning the all-state chorus audition pieces. So at least while we're, by ourselves trying to get through this, we can, look to the future of future projects and stuff. So that's what I'm doing for them.
Yeah.
And then at first when this all happened,
everyone was kind of under the understanding that, I mean, when we first got out of school, it was like 2 weeks or something like that. So we had kind of done assignments for like the students to just kind of record certain parts of their band music or chorus music and send it in to us, and just to keep it fresh, so that when we get back, we can just hit the ground running with the rest of the year. But then as it progressed, more and more things got canceled and it got prolonged and stuff. And so now I'm kind of doing the same thing with the students, where I'm just kind of looking ahead to next year and getting the students ready for that. And we have like all acoustic auditions and all state auditions. So it's kind of a good chance in a way to get a good head start on that stuff. And
Right.
And hopefully it will promote more of our students to want to do that, to do audition for those groups, because they'll just have a lot more time to kind of get ready for that. And so and then we'll kind of do some virtual lessons as much as we can. It is kind of difficult to do that with like lag times and things like that, but
Right.
we'll just have to work through it, and hopefully we can.
What's some types of software and tech that you're using to try to bridge that gap?
Yeah, really. I mean, I've had kids record things and send them, like they can use photo booths to make video recordings, or and what else can I use?
Like voice memo.
Right, voice memo. That we use voice
iPhone
memo
or
for
things
like
like that.
audio recordings, and then like for video chatting, I've used Google Classroom usually because
Right.
it's under my like school account and stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to. We're not like the most tech savvy people, and so
We should be.
It's kind of this is kind of a whole new way of teaching for us. So it's kind of a trial and error kind of process. We're trying new things, and so we've been using like Google Meet, which is like the Google version of Zoom, and
I've used Zoom a lot. Of course, what I teach, fortunately, it's not as collaborative or performance based as what you teach. I teach, English literature and creative writing. So it's a little easier. But Zoom and Google Meets or Google Hangouts, I never can remember which one is for the group and which one's for individuals. But anyway, we use those a lot. But I've been interested in how, because you see, like we had, John Krasinski hosted this thing for this little girl who really loved Hamilton, right? And
right.
all the performers did this collaborative thing where they were performing together at the same time. I'm like, how are they doing that? I mean, they just have to have some amazing investment in tech, like amazing tech.
Right.
Because the lag time, it's like you said, music is all about, there's only really two parts to music. It's tone and time, right? I mean, and if the computer's throwing things off, it's just not going to work. And yet there is some tech out there people are using. Like, I don't know if you guys know, you probably know his brother, but I think Kyle Goupel came through the schools before you guys did.
Kyle.
We went to school with him. Yep.
Okay. Well,
he was younger than us, but
yeah. Well, he and Kevin Kinsey and Andy Yeager, they got together and did a piece together. Andy on the trombone and the two of them on trumpets. And you could see three of them play. And I say four because later Kyle added an additional trumpet track with himself. And so, I mean, there's definitely ways to do it. It's just, it might not be accessible to all students is the thing.
Right. That's kind of
costs money, But Power Director is what he said he used to bring all the parts together.
Okay.
So they didn't actually do it in real time, I guess. So and I tell you what, I mentioned this, I think, to John. I have discovered just how versatile and easy to use GarageBand is for the first time. I've had an iPhone forever, and I just it's one of the little cheap, free software. What can it really do? It does some pretty cool stuff, man.
Oh, definitely.
Nice headphones. I mean, you can sing. I can do multiple parts and sing harmony with myself and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, one of the benefits of this is it's kind of forced us to start using technology more. One of the things I'm going to try to do is I'd like to learn how to get different like recordings of people and putting it together and making it sound like an actual piece. And so one of the things I'm going to start doing is like recording myself playing like quartets, and I play each part and then try to line it up, and then that way I can kind of get better at that. It's kind of so that's kind of been a good benefit of this quarantine a little bit, is just forcing us to kind of learn how to teach in new ways.
Yeah, there's some great options out there. Not everyone can afford an iPhone or an Apple product, but anyone who has that, GarageBand will do exactly what you were just describing. It does it really easily. Really, it's yeah. I think Mule, is it Smule? I think Smule is supposed to be like a karaoke type technology, but when I looked into it, because I don't know if you know Andrew Sullivan. He's a music teacher at MSSM, and
okay.
And I'm the chair of the arts of the English and Fine Arts department, so he's one of my department members. And so we were doing a little digging and trying to find something to do for the last 2 weeks where they could pull things together. And Smule, I saw people doing a lot of stuff, posting things they were singing. They were all singing to like existing karaoke tracks, right? I was like, well, that's not going to really help because they have to build their own. So I dug a little deeper, and they actually do allow you to upload, tracks of your own to sing to. Which, I mean, if you're doing you could do for the vocalists, you could upload a track, but also for the instrumentalists, you could upload the track, and that is the piece. You don't have to worry about singing to it. But so you might check into Smule as well and see if that works. I hadn't used it. I can't tell you, but okay. So we talked about how you're adjusting to working with the students and doing your music teaching. How is your creativity somehow helping you personally get through this weird reality we find ourselves in?
A little bit, yeah. Jason thinks it's kind of funny, but a few days after, we realized we're not coming home or going to school for a while. We went to school, got all of our instruments. I got my keyboard from a classroom in Pine Street. We got the guitar home. We got Jason's instrument. And then I also went and bought a ukulele because I'd always wanted to learn how to play, and it seemed very easy. I already knew not a lot of guitar, but I knew guitar because it's my guitar that we brought home. And so for the first few weeks of this time, we were like, kind of jamming out on the guitar, which is kind of funny because no one would expect us to be those kinds of people, but really easy chords, of course. But we found like funny songs and stuff, and that kind of kept us going for a while. And then I got a ukulele, and that's been like a game changer because it's just been so easy to learn. I got blisters in my finger, which hasn't happened in a long time. But it's a nice floral ukulele that I got from Chris Morton. It's great. So that's kept me occupied a little bit. It's been fun to learn a new instrument, which I never usually allow myself to learn a new instrument because I feel like there are better things to do. But this has been a great time to learn.
Yeah, and it's kind of we live in an apartment, so kind of some of the so it makes it a little difficult to kind of play instruments. But ukulele is like a great one, in guitar because they're not like super loud. So so it's kind of been keeping us occupied. But we've been looking up I don't know, like funny pop songs and things like that. And like
songs you wouldn't expect to be heard on a guitar, acoustic guitar, ukulele.
just trying it out. Just to kind of, I don't know, just to get better at guitar. Cause I teach a guitar class, but I would by no means consider myself a guitar player. I just kind of started picking up guitar last year when I got the job there. So it's kind of given us an opportunity to get better at instruments that we haven't really had a chance to get better at.
I somehow, I don't know how, but I have a guitar. I bought it from Chris, and I kept finding that I wasn't having really enough time to make my old person hands, not that I'm that old, but my hands feel old sometimes. I've played the keyboard my whole life, right? So to make it, try to twist around that neck and make those really weird chords, and I just didn't seem like I was devoting the time to it. And I'm crazy busy at work anyway. So I heard about mountain dulcimer, and I was like, well, that's an odd instrument. And I looked into it, and it's sitting down in front of them, and they're pressing down on it kind of like they would a keyboard. Then the problem was, I found out they have a diatonic fret pattern, which means you can really only play like basically the notes of the scale, maybe one extra here and there. So there's whole chords that I wouldn't be able to make, as a keyboardist, I'm going to want to make an augmented or a suspension or something sometime. So someone gave me an old electric guitar that didn't work. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. So I cannibalized the neck off of that and some other hardware. I built myself a dulcimer with a regular fret system on it. And I've been loving learning that. It's really easy. It's
Oh my
probably
gosh.
harder than a regular dulcimer because you have to spread your fingers a little more for the actual frets, but it's really not that hard. I'm not even getting blisters, Molly.
Man, that's my biggest thing is the blisters, and like then everything feels weird when I touch it. Like my dog feels weird when I pet her.
Yeah. Whenever you watch this video later, the sound quality's not that great. I'm just in my house here, but the tune that I play, the strumming going on, that's me on the dulcimer, man. I'm so excited about it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Okay. So now I've called you guys a musical creative power couple. What about projects you guys do together?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say something about that. So of course I'm a soprano. Jason is a euphonium player. He's a euphonium player. And so I've often joked we should do a recital together, or we should do a duet where I sing the soprano part and he sings like the bass or baritone part, but it's never actually come together. We kind of joked about doing something like that for like this spring, like back in the fall when I first moved here. But we have not naturally become like a duet kind of couple or like a recital couple because of the weirdness of our instruments together.
Yeah.
But typically Jason will steal music of mine and try to play it because
I do that when I was in college. A lot of times something like our studio would do, which would be like all the trombone and tuba and euphonium players, we would always steal like vocal music, like stuff from operas and things like that, and we would like take them and play them on our instrument, and and then it just became a running thing. While Molly's music, I would always steal it and then just try to learn it on my instrument. And I've always been kind of interested in finding music that wasn't, as a euphonium player, there's not a lot of music written for our instrument, and so a lot of times we have to steal it from other people. and so, like one thing I do like to do is I like to take like songs that were written for like trombone, or I've done saxophone. I got a book of Charlie Parker like solo transcriptions, and so I tried to. There was a point when I tried to learn those on euphonium just as something new to do. But part of that too is I would like take Molly's vocal books and just like start reading them and just start playing them as if I'm
So I go into a practice room like, are you playing my song for a recital right now?
Yeah. What's coming through there is the curiosity and the experimentation and play that I'm finding is a consistent one of the consistent themes that's coming through all these videos and interviews I'm making so far. I think that's one side of the creative mind, or at least the creative process when the mind comes open to it, that makes it so much fun. It's just you're just having fun trying stuff, and when you discover something of value, you decide to practice it and use it over and over again. I think it was John who said, he had a director who said we play music. We don't work at music, we play.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really like to do in these interviews, if it is possible, that is to share some of the guests' work with the audience. So at this time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit share screen. So the screen's going to go kind of crazy for a minute for you guys to know, and as well as the guests. But I'm going to do that because I'm going to share some pieces from both of you, and we'll talk for a little bit after each of those. And I think I have Molly's pulled up first, so we'll start with some of your pieces. So hold on while the screen transitions. If you have seatbelts, maybe put those on. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's just my
Jamming classics.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay. The first one up is I Got Lost in His Arms.
Yes.
I got lost in his arms and I had to stay. It was dark in his arms and I lost my way. kept jumping all around. I got lost, but look what I found.
I've never seen that.
Really?
That was great.
I took it
Yeah.
last spring. Yeah.
Just
Oh,
a second.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, just a second. It didn't stop for some reason. There we go.
Oh no.
Yeah, if you noticed, I waited until the piano had totally faded out before I stopped it. I don't know. It's an OCD thing with me that I just hate to interrupt and break a beautiful piece of music before it's done. It has to stop and let the mood, I don't know. That's just me.
I understand. I totally understand that.
Yeah. So, all right. Now, two things that hit me when I was listening to it at that time. First of all, there's definitely an element of performance going on there. You're not just standing there and the only thing moving is your jaw and your vocal cords. There's a performative quality to that. And I think one of the other pieces you shared, I mean, you really have some, you really portray a character in that. By the way, was this particular piece, was it from a musical?
Yeah, it's from Annie Get Your Gun, which I don't know if Presque Isle's done it, but it's a fun musical. It's fun. But Annie Oakley. Yep.
So talk about, a lot of people have the misconception that, the only type of truly original creative art is stuff where everything about it somehow comes out of your own head, which is just absolutely not true. In fact, I've loved the journey with the band where I'm getting to learn some classic old American rock tunes and other things. And I definitely, when I'm singing those pieces, I spent a lot of time listening to how the original was done. And I like to try to be able to closely mimic exactly what the original was at first, get what they're doing down. And once I feel like I have internalized that piece thoroughly enough, then I start being able to make it my own, right? And improvise and add dynamics in certain places. So talk about how creativity is alive in this piece that somebody else wrote.
Right. Yeah. So whenever I learn a song, and at that stage in my development, at that time I did that song, I had been coaching that song with someone else. And so with most of my music that I learn, I have to learn it from somebody else first, of course. And they teach me how I should sing it. And then we have something called like getting it into your body. And so I can always tell with myself and other people how long they've probably been singing that song. Because either it feels like they're trying to be somebody else or they've accepted that that's their song now. And for that one, I at that time felt like it was my song at that point. But there's been times where some songs took longer than others to feel like it was finally my original.
Yeah,
song.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, it's impossible for me to think about learning a song without listening to somebody else do it first, though I have done original works before, and it's really difficult. And you don't realize how difficult it is to not listen to someone else do it and like copy somebody else first until you do an original piece, like I've done like workshops of like operas and stuff in my grad school time, days, whatever. And yeah, it was very difficult to do something that I had no reference point for. So I think you always need to go back to the original source or somebody else who really like got it into their bodies too.
Yeah. I love that term. Never heard that. Get it into your body. Yeah. And there's something about the stage itself that can sometimes complicate that process of getting comfortable with a tune too, because it's an additional layer of discomfort and feeling unnatural, right? I mean, there's trying to feel at home in the piece, but there's also trying to feel at home in front of 100, 200, 300, 400, 1,000 eyes, right?
Yes.
Oh man, what a journey that could be. What are some techniques that maybe before you perform, what are some things that you do to relax yourself, get your voice ready, but also get your head ready?
Oh yeah, here we go. So usually, like, it depends on the thing. If it's an audition, it's just a few people. I mean, I think it's more intimidating to see the people's faces. If you can see their faces, I'm way more scared. But if it's a group and if the lights are down, I can't see them, like I'm way actually more like at ease with it. But for my voice, I have a whole routine. If I'm doing a performance that night, I'll wake up, I'll warm up a tiny bit, and then I'll go throughout my day, eat something, warm up a little bit more, and then, just kind of lay there and wait for it to happen because I'm a little bit anxious, anxiety and stuff. For my mental state, though, I found when I was auditioning for things and going to different schools, if I watched blooper reels or if I watched just funny videos beforehand, I usually felt a lot better. So I sat like in a practice room at one school before my audition and just watched like Whose Line Is It Anyway bloopers and stuff. And then I was fine.
That's awesome. I can see that working. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You basically you force your mind to totally get out of the headspace where worrying's happening by laughing. Well, cool idea.
Yeah, and it makes me think like, well, the worst could happen, but I'll still laugh again at some point. Like even if it goes horribly wrong, I'll look back at it and laugh. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, I kind of go through the same process. I kind of deal with whenever as a performer, I always deal with like a lot of performance anxiety. I'm going up into a performance, and I kind of go by a routine. Like I'm always like before, I have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like right before, like as my meal right before a performance. Like I always just, it's just I have a process that I go through. But like
your mouthpieces probably smell interesting.
right, yeah. And like I mean, even with conducting, even like doing like the school concerts, I feel nervous going into it, I kind of do the same. I used to get a lot in my headspace and like listen to my pieces before I would play them. Like before I go out there, I'm listening to recordings and stuff like that, and that would just like it would just totally throw me off. I'd go out there and I would just tank it, and so it's always like just because like. You just listen to like these great performances of it, and then you just get like all in your headspace. And I think talking about being creative with someone else's work of music, I think goes into just making it your own. I think a lot of like my preparation for recitals that I've done, it was a lot of, yes, this piece has been done a million times, and it's great to listen to recordings of other people doing it. Like you were saying, listen to the originals and how they go, so you can get in, know how it goes and stuff. But I think making it your own, just kind of knowing like and adding your little things here and there. Like I mean, with classical music, the given you don't have a whole lot of give and take with things, but like you can add like big build-ups, big crescendos in some places, make things bigger than with me, one of my pieces I've done for a recital is I did a set of vocal pieces by Brahms, and they were all done. They were originally for voice, and part of what like my teacher would say was, even though you're playing it on your instrument, you should because it's originally in German, translate this and know what the piece is about. And so I had to go through and translate it all in English, and then it just changed the whole way that I interpreted the piece, and it put a lot more feeling in the performance. But I guess I'm going on a tangent now. But.
No, I like all that.
No, there's some beautiful, good stuff going on there. I think we're getting some insight into it's important to understand the original, so because that tells you the emotional state of the writer, or at least the character they're writing for, or whatever.
Right.
And you understand what you're communicating, even if what you're communicating is either in German, or if what you're communicating is not even actually English or a written language, but it's music itself, right? I think what we can do, I could probably cycle back and forth here. Let's pull up one of your tunes, Jason, and have you reflect on that a little bit. Oh, before I do that, I have to share the screen. We don't have to.
No, yeah. Unfortunately, mine aren't videos. They're all.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
But he looks so good when he plays.
All right. So I'm going to hit share now, and then we'll play one of your pieces. Oh, where is it? There it is. I may have to.
Sorry, the audio's not so great on it.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. I was wondering if there's a way to turn it up. Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. Let's see if we can switch to another one.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that one should be fine. The Carnival of Venice one, no,
Okay.
it should be good. Yeah.
Oh man, wow, very cool. Man, I think that probably took some practice, didn't it?
Yeah.
I have been practicing it all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Man, those runs. I mean, it sounded like they weren't straight up down the scale. They're more chromatic sometimes, I think, because you were
Yeah,
doing a lot of-
The piece is Carnival of Venice. It's and there's a bunch of different arrangements of that piece. And the one I did was by a man named Jean-Baptiste Arbin. And it's out of a book that a lot of brass players, trumpet players especially, will know. The Arbin's book is kind of like the trumpet Bible. Every trumpet player should have it and do exercises. And it's kind of at the end of the book, there's these things called theme and variations, which they have a theme, and then they have variations on it. And that sample was variations on the theme of Carnival of Venice, and it's all these different technical exercises and they put it into a song and make it
Yeah, and it definitely has a carnival feel to it. Really light, happy, very high energy. I think it was 3/4 time. It sounded like, or some variation of that.
I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was in 6/8, I think.
Okay. And I think you were talking originally how interpreting the language helped you climb inside the head and get a feel of what was being expressed, and we could hear a lot of really light type emotion in that particular piece. And language, I always thought that music was a language of emotion. It kind of transcends linguistic boundaries, right? Very cool. Okay, let's switch over and hear another one of Molly's pieces, and we'll talk about that one, and we'll do one more of yours. And okay, which means I need to go back to the internet.
I probably should give some context before this next one.
Oh yeah?
It's in German. It's
okay.
From, it's the English one. Never mind. We're good. It's English.
We can do either one. Which one would you prefer?
The German one is shorter. I don't know if you care.
I don't necessarily, because neither one of them are terribly long, so it doesn't matter to me.
Let's do the German one if you have already pulled up.
Okay. So I get this thing out of my way here. Okay.
All right. So this one, Bobinich, it's from the opera Hansel and Gretel. So I'm playing the character of Gretel in this.
Yes, this is the piece where you are really doing some actual, bodily performance too, if I remember.
Yes, so that'd be good to maybe see if we're going to see it.
This is the first opera you performed in.
Yeah,
right?
so when I went to my master's program, I auditioned for the opera for the fall, not expecting anything, and I got the role of Gretel, which is, there's like 5 roles in the whole show because it's Gretel, it's the witch, it's Hansel, and then the parents. So there's like these fairies or something. So she was lost in the woods the night before with her brother, and then this is the next morning, and you probably can tell what's happening if you watch it, but there's these birds singing in the trees, and she's saying good morning to them, and that's basically all that happens. So enjoy.
All right.
I also introduced myself here a little bit.
You also what?
I introduced myself, but don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hello, my name is Molly Abrams, and I'll be singing Bo bin ich from Hansel and Gretel. Wo bin ich? Wo ich? Ist es ein Traum? Hier lieg ich unter Tannenbaum. Hoch in den Zweigen, da lispelt es leise. Vöglein singen so süße Weise, von frischen Bäumen sie aufgewacht und haben ihr Morgenlicht dargebracht. Ihr lieben Vöglein, sieh doch, der Vogel singt Schnepfe, Wortur, definitiv. Sie ist nicht mehr früh, sie ist nicht mehr früh. Die Lerche hat gesungen und sie hat geschwungen.
The end. So she also was singing to her brother. I forgot about that part too.
Yeah.
Well, a nice high note on the end there.
Oh, hi Dee. Oh, I was so scared of that note. Oh man.
Now, there's a variety of emotions coming through that piece. The music, I think middle toward the 2/3 of the way through there, we have more minors and a little more suspenseful breaks, things going on. And she seems to have a scowl. You had a scowl on your face and you're motioning.
That's Hansel. Looking at Hansel. I'm like, what are you doing? Wake up.
Got you. I was wanting to say if you were scolding the little brother or if you were discovering the birds had eaten the breadcrumbs and you couldn't get back home.
The great thing is we don't know, so we can just make it up now. Yeah, she's scolding the little brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still sleeping.
So now I would think one challenge of performing, and I mean, opera, it's all about knowing how to project, right, and have the power in that voice, and yet you're acting, which means you're often, I would think, getting into bodily positions that make it a little bit harder to project.
Yes.
So there's a lot more to practice, a lot more moving parts literally going on there. Talk about that some.
Yeah, and so I think I mentioned to you that I did some cross training, which is when you study musical theater and opera performance. And I mean, both musical theater and opera might put you in weird positions to sing. Like, for example, I did a program in the summer a couple years ago where I had to die on stage, and then I had to sing while being slightly propped up by my male, lead. And so I had to sing like a high note while laying down. Ooh. So that happens a lot in opera, for example.
Yeah, that would be challenging. I find that I want my diaphragm and everything, full access to that particular group of muscles when I hit a note,
Yeah. The other challenging thing, of course, is that you're singing in a language you might not know, which I've taken German. I did not retain a lot of German. I know the songs that I sing that are in German, what they mean, but I have to do a lot of translating and then putting it into my body, how I'm going to show that I know what's going on. And so that takes a lot of work too. A lot of voice majors have to take, 1 or 2 years of like a language, and then they have to take like diction classes, and it's an ongoing thing of like, do you know what you're singing? So yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about personal projects and your background, what you do in the school district, what you're doing now to adjust. Oh, before we do that, let's listen to one more piece of Jason's, and then I want you to talk after we talk about Jason's next piece. I do want you to talk about things you do outside of MS81, like in the summertime or in the community. But let's listen to one more of Jason's pieces here. Let me share screen again. Okay. Let's minimize the internet so I can get access to my YouTube when it's time. And would you say that Brahms piece has, or deep?
That one might be a little quiet. And I think it's, yeah, that was from that same recital that first one you tried to play was from. So, but actually, yeah, that one you have your arrow on now. Yeah, that would probably be it.
Is that the duet?
Yeah, this one is a duet that I do with my friend from grad school. And he was also a euphonium player, and we used to practice a lot together. Because at our school, like it was hard to find rooms to practice in because everyone was practicing, and so we'd end up always practicing together and playing a lot of duets. And so we end up on our recitals doing duets together as part of our recital. So. Yeah.
So do they have special sections of dorms where they put all the musicians?
And usually like in the music building at the schools, they'll have like practice rooms. Like they have when I was at Butler, we had a whole floor of practice rooms, but you can never get into them depending on the time of day, unless you went super early in the morning or really late at night. It was pretty hard, but luckily we were grad assistants for the ensembles there, and so we had keys to all the rooms of the building, and so we would just find a random room that wasn't classroom that wasn't being used or something and practice in there.
Yeah.
Really nice. I'm assuming that's the end, but it says it has another like minute or half a minute left.
Oh, I think it's clapping and stuff
a-
afterwards. It was from a live recording of it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like an encore.
Yeah, really nice and smooth tones there. Molly sent me some information on you guys, and you mentioned the euphonium, and I was like, okay, I know that's a horn. Let me do a little research. And I said, okay, well, I remember when I was in band, I played the trombone, and I remember we sat right behind us were the baritones, and I was like, what's the difference between a euphonium and a baritone? And I don't know that I got a full answer, but one of the things is actually the shape of the tubing itself. I think it was the euphonium. It basically gradually from mouthpiece all the way to the bell, until when the bell, obviously the rate of expansion picks up, but it slowly but surely gets bigger and bigger the whole time. Whereas with the baritone, it stays constant until close to the bell when it swells out, and that would affect the tone, I would think.
Yeah. Wow. Nice research. Yeah, that's exactly the difference.
I didn't even know that.
Baritone and euphonium play the same parts, like in band, for the most of the time.
Same fingerings, right?
Yeah, and every once in a while, like some band pieces, you'll see a separate euphonium and baritone part, but very, very few pieces. But yeah, that's exactly right. A euphonium, it's what's called a conical bore instrument, and so yeah, the diameter of the tubing gets bigger as you go through the instrument. Whereas baritone, it stays the same. It's kind of, I'm trying to think of another instrument that's kind of similar in that way. Trumpet would be, trumpet and cornet are,
okay.
That's the differences between those two.
That makes sense.
But yeah, because of the diameter getting bigger, euphonium kind of tends to have a darker, warmer sound to it, whereas baritone is a little bit brighter, more.
The impression I was just getting listening to that piece was it almost sounded like it was a bass cousin of a French horn almost. It was so smooth.
Yeah.
Super beautiful sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that piece was an example of that's originally a piece from an opera. It's a duet. It's a duet it's a tenor bass duet from Bizet. Bizet was the same composer who wrote Carmen. It was from an opera he did called The Pearl Fishers, and that's a piece. It's a duet. I can't remember the whole story from
isn't
my
that
research.
isn't that like the famous duet or no?
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the more famous arias or works from that opera.
I kind of forgot that. Listening to it again, I was like, yeah, it sounds like it could be like a baritone and bass singing a duet.
Yeah, and it's kind of a funny piece. We kind of did it because me and my friend Anthony kind of picked it in the opera. It's like this. It's this duet between these two men who are friends, and they had let they were both in love with the same woman or something, and it got in the way of their friendship. And then that piece that comes in, they kind of renounce that, and they choose to never let love get in the way of their friendship. And so it's kind of like it was kind of like a funny duet between friends in the opera. So we were like, oh, okay, it works well for the instruments because the voice parts are so similar, and the instruments are Well,
so. That introduces a suggestion of romance. There wasn't a same situation with you and your friend Anthony going on.
No, definitely not.
He luckily also had a girlfriend at the time, so he was actually our roommate.
Yeah.
We all lived in the same house, but yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons I sent that one is one of the things that I think is great as a musician to do is playing with other people, obviously, but especially like doing duets and things like that. It helps develop a lot of your creativity, just in the sense you have to kind of read off each other and make sure you sound good together and
blend and
And so some of my greatest memories as a musician is when I was a kid. Like my dad would always pull out duet books. My dad was also a euphonium player, and he's a music teacher at Old Town. and as a kid, we'd always play duets together and things like that, and that kind of helped develop me as a musician in a lot of ways. And me and my friend Anthony, we would play duets all the time, and I think a lot of that developed me more as a musician than just kind of playing exercises out of a book all day. And I think, I try to do that with students that I teach private lessons to, is play duets with them and things like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great teaching skill. It makes you very vulnerable, because you have your own part, and you have to make sure you're playing it right, or it doesn't line up with the other person's part. And you don't have someone, like a lot of times in band, you'll have someone sitting next to you who's playing the same part, so you can kind of hide behind them a little bit, but you can't. You're totally exposed, and you got to just keep up. And
yeah. And a duet, there's not really anywhere to hide, unlike a full choir or full orchestra or something.
Right.
I have a confession to make. We were talking about romantic connections and things. This is my first real conversation I've ever had with you guys. I mean, we might have shaken hands to each other in the community, but this is the first time to really get to know you. And in preparing for this interview, I was communicating back and forth via email with Molly quite a bit. So her name was sticking in my head a little bit better. And one part of my brain would say, Jason, his name is Jason Priest. And then another part of my head would say, no, you're just putting Jason in there because his last name Priest, and you're thinking of Jason Priestley.
Oh yeah.
The actor, So do you find yourself having an affinity for anything Beverly Hills 90210? I don't know.
I was a little bit. I mean, I was kind of from that show came out
It came out in 1990, right?
Yeah. Right. That show came out the year I was born.
But his parents didn't call him Jason because it would sound like Jason Priestley, apparently. I am still not convinced, but it did come out before you were born.
Yeah, I mean, I think my sister used to say when she was a kid, though, she used to make up this lie that we were related to him or something. Make up some lie that his name is actually Priest, but he changed it to Priestley because it's an actor's name or something. My sister would make up some story about being related to Jason Priestley, but yeah.
That's funny. Talk about some of the things you do, the work you do with kids and the work you do with yourselves away from school itself, maybe when school's not in session, or other projects in the community maybe.
Yeah. So a camp we both went to when we were kids. I went a bit longer than Jason, but it's Maine Summer Youth Music at Maine. I started when I was 13, and you went before me. You were like in middle school when you went. I went for 6 years, and now we both teach there. And they have band, chorus, musical theater, and then like different music classes you can take. But it's on Maine campus, and I'm the musical theater manager, and then Jason helps with facilities, and he also steps in when they need help with jazz bands and stuff like that, which it's sad because probably this summer it will not be happening because of all restrictions with COVID-19, but that's something you do in the summer, and that's something I wish my kids would eventually go to and do because it's really fun. It got me into wanting to be a music teacher, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity too for students to just work with. There's UMaine faculty, music faculty that work there, and there's also teachers just from around the state. There's some teachers from Southern Maine and from Central Maine, so it's a good way for for students to just get a new teaching experience from someone new. But yeah, the camp offers almost anything you would want out of it. In terms of we do band. There is a string ensemble.
String ensemble.
There is a string ensemble for people who play violin or viola, cello, bass. We have musical theater. Molly helps out with that.
Yeah, Jay Nelson.
Yeah.
I work there with him, which is funny because I used to be a student of his at that camp, and now I work alongside him. But he's the musical theater director for the high school, and then the UMaine director of choral activities. He's the chorus director, which is cool. He was a teacher of ours.
Yeah, and then the two UMaine band directors, Chris White and Bill Edelman, they do two bands, the concert band, and they call it symphonic band and concert band at the camp. And then we have jazz bands and jazz combo, which is just a small group of players. And so it gives a lot of opportunity to students that way, and it's a good way for us too. We get to know students from around the state.
Yeah, it is a little weird because they call my first name, and like there's a kid that goes to Caribou, and I know her from camp, and so she saw me, she's like, "Hi, Molly." I was like, "Hey."
Yeah.
Every other kid's called Mrs. Priest, but it's fine.
Yeah, and the before I started at Presque Isle, there were 2 students that were from Presque Isle who were at the camp, and so
Yeah.
it was a good way to kind of get to know them before starting out. So yeah, it was great.
So you said you went 6 years, and that tells me that the age eligibility there has to be longer than just junior high or high school. So what are the ages? How do kids go there? What do they need to do to be able to go? And
So it's there's a junior camp for kids 11 to 14.
okay.
So if you're a 5th grader going into 6th grade, or if you're going into high school, and then there's senior camp, which is 14 to 18. So I started when I was 13, and then I went until I was out of high school. Actually, I went my last year I could possibly go. So if you wanted to go to the camp, online, the link that you'll share, it'll give all the information how to apply for like scholarships if you want to go, if you can't pay the full amount on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty easy. They have the office number there, you can just call and register. So, but it's especially fun because it's a social camp too.
Yeah.
And any kids that would go that'd be from here, they'd get to know me in a very different way because I'm also like a dorm counselor too. So I do my pajamas sometimes and walking around the hallways.
Very
Getting in
cool.
trouble for being awake when they shouldn't be.
Yeah. I was a bad dorm counselor. I was like,
I can't
okay.
imagine.
Yeah. So, we got up and I led them on a raid of another dorm. So I was a bad dorm. But we won't talk anymore about all that. Well, man, I have really enjoyed getting to know you guys today, and enjoyed listening to some really beautiful pieces from you, and gotten to see how creativity informs, your particular, types of music and things, and just the wonderful things you're doing, for my kids and the local community, and it's been a really cool conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no, thanks for
Thank you.
having us.
Yeah.
That was fun. Did you want to mention the National Guard Band really quick?
Oh,
please.
well,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Outside, another thing outside of school that I do is I'm part of the Army National Guard Band that's in Bangor. I've been part of that. Let's see,
Almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, I think it will be 9 years this year. And so, and that just as something for students or anyone who's really looking to do something with music outside of school, and finding for me, I did it as a way to pay for college, and that was kind of my initial intention, was just a way to pay for college, and I ended up loving it, and I'm still in it today. And yeah, we do like a concert band, just like kids do in school or something like that. And but on top of that, we have like a jazz band, and we have like a rock band, and like a small jazz. It's like a semi-jazz pop rock group that we have. And yeah, it's just it's a great opportunity for people who are interested, especially if you're just looking for some other playing opportunities. And I think, Molly, you gave.
Oh yeah, I gave you a link for that
yeah,
too, to the Facebook page.
Yeah.
We have the link.
I've gone to a lot of his concerts, and they're very fun. Community loves a National Guard band playing and under a gazebo. And they have like a summer tour they go on and meet once a month. And I would do it and be a singer in it, but I could not pass basic training. So that's why I'm not a member.
Yeah. I didn't realize they had so many diverse musical projects going on underneath that umbrella. That's really cool. That's really cool.
And a lot of the kind of the new thing with military bands is we're trying to develop new things, just to kind of be more than just a band or a concert band or something like that, more than a marching band. So yeah, our group has been able to come up with some good stuff that kind of appeals to everyone. Yeah,
that's very, very cool. So how long have you been in the National Guard now?
It will be 9 years in August. So
9 years.
Yeah.
And how soon before you would have to re-up?
Didn't you recently rep a couple years ago?
I did, yeah. I re-upped a couple of years ago. Usually you do like a 6-year contract. And yeah, so I just recently did mine. So I still have quite a few years left.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Has there been any talk about possibly utilizing the local National Guard troop or troops to try to help with anything going on in our country right now?
Really, I'm sure there is. I'm not really. I don't know.
Your
I
unit
don't know.
hasn't said anything, right?
I don't know a whole lot about it. But yeah, I'm sure if they ever needed us, they would give us a call. Right now, we're kind of like with National Guard, you have like drill weekends, and so we're kind of being quarantined just along with everyone else. But I'm sure if they need someone, they'll give us someone a call. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah. Well, man, guys, I love this. This was great, and now I can't wait till we can get out of our houses and we can go hear some things that you guys are working on and the kids are working on. And
I can't wait. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I miss Kylie.
I know.
Kylie I miss her.
Yeah, we miss the kids a lot. That's that's one of the hardest parts is just not seeing the kids every day. So it's been a struggle.
It's been a struggle for them. They're real smart and resourceful. I mean, but within a week or two, she had Zoom figured out before I did, and they were having Zoom meetings together, Zoom workout sessions together. I mean, I don't know what they don't do over Zoom now. So she's still getting stir crazy, and she was really crestfallen to miss out on so many of the things that were going to be happening. But yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, I had a little jazz choir Zoom meeting, or it was Google Classroom or Google Meet.
Yeah.
It was Google Meet, but I'll do Zoom next time because it was a little hard with the screens and stuff. But we had a little meeting with the jazz choir through our screens, and that was kind of nice. And yeah, I heard from Kylie, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of bored most of the time, but I keep busy, but I don't watch really any Netflix anymore or anything." I was like, "Good for you."
No doubt. There's only so much of that passive, stuff I can take, until I've got to get up and do something,
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, you guys stay safe and take care of yourselves. It's really wonderful to have you as a part of our community here, and so you take care of you, please.
Thank you. Yeah, you take care of yourself too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.